promised, today we are talking all things budgeting. So, if you caught last week's episode, we kind of touched on this a little bit, but we really wanted to have just an episode just for this topic. I know we spoke about this relatively early in the podcast series, but with it being January, a brand new year, I know this is a lot of times whenever people sit down and not only look at their resolutions, but they also look at what do they want to accomplish as a household. And so a lot of times that includes financial um, planning, savings, career moves for financial wealth, like what have you. So today we're gonna talk about that. We're gonna dive into it. We're gonna share kind of our best tips and tricks, and what we have in store for 2024. So that's the game plan.
Nice. I like it.
Yeah.
So I think just initially for me, I've started to kind of, we're in a place and Jen, I think you guys are kind of there too, where, we're looking at the housing market and we're just kind of looking at what's out there, kind of for myself, I'm at the stage where I'm just, looking at things on Zillow and being like, oh, how the hell are we going to afford this?
I know. It's daunting.
So, our goal this year is, step one is that we need to get rid of this debt that we've been carrying. And, it's been limiting us in a lot of different ways. Also just, to get a house. So our first step was to look at, where do we want to be, at the end of the year financially, and just kind of creating a plan to move forward. So our plan is, we'd like to have enough for a down payment, whether that's 30 grand, 40 grand, somewhere in there. That's our goal, money wise. I know we're first time home buyers, so we don't need to put that much down, but that's our goal, to just be able to have something to not really limit us in where we want to look to live and how much we could afford. So in order to get there, we still have to pay down all our debt. So once we kind of established that, then we kind of worked backwards. We said, okay, well, now we have to chip away at the debt. We need to look at all of our debt, to see, where it's hurting us the most, where we could be most, struggling
Where you
with the
can make the
word
best
here.
impact.
Where
Or
we,
most
yeah,
impact.
yeah, and it's almost like, okay, well, I still have some student loans left. And we still have we're still paying off our car. So there's a couple of things where it's like, all right, where do we need to get those to be comfortable? And the student loans I'm not so much worried about, because, well, as far as I was aware in the past, the rule of thumb was like student loan isn't really that bad of a debt to have. It's still debt, but it's not counted as much as consumer debt. So it's really like, will that be the last thing we end up paying off before, and then we worry about paying off everything else? So I have been listening to some Dave Ramsey stuff. And I have to agree with about 90% of what he says. And at this stage in the game, his rule of thumb is, you pay off all your consumer debt and you get rid of your credit cards. And at this stage of the game, we've had these credit cards for so long that it would actually be more detrimental for us to pay them off and close them than to just pay them off and keep them open and use them for small things like, paying off the cable bill every month and then just paying that right off. Because right now we're paying all that through our bank account. So it's like, what difference does it make is if I'm putting this small charge on my credit card to keep the utilization going, to remain in the eyes of the credit card and credit score world, a positive user. So we've decided that we are going to pay everything off. And then once everything's paid off, we're going to assess what we have and what's still, what's open, and which ones we can afford to, quote unquote, close, we need to assess which ones we have open the longest, because at this point we've had cards for 10, 15 years, which in most credit scores, having a card open for having a credit background of over 15 years is very positive. So we've kind of taken that rule and we're going to skirt that rule that he says. Just because once we get this paid off and we start, accumulating money that we're not paying towards debt and things like that, then we want to be able to move forward to the next step. So we're doing a snowball method, which is we're attacking the lowest balances first. And then what you do is apply the payments that you would put towards those lower balances towards the next ones and kind of compound it. So each payment towards the next bill gets bigger and bigger and bigger until it's paid off. And then you roll that one over to the next one.
Can you give me a like a tangible example? Say, let's for instance, if I have a card that has a $500 limit, and I have a card that's got a $1,000 limit, so I want to pay off the $500 card first.
It's not based off of your limit,
not your
though,
limit.
Mel.
It's
It's based off of your
balance.
balance.
Well, let's just say that they're both
Well, let's say
maxed.
the balance and the limit are the same.
Yeah. Let's just say they're both maxed. So, and do you go by your minimum payment, like a $25 a month payment, and then after you, because I don't know the whole snowball method, and I'm trying to figure it out.
If you have two cards, what is the minimum payment on your $1,000 card?
Let's just say it's $50.
$50. Okay.
Yeah.
So, and then how much realistically, if that's your only two cards in the month, that you have to pay, how much realistically could you afford to put at that $500 card?
So if the minimum on the 500 is 25, I would automatically pay 50. I would just want to pay double it.
Okay. So in grand total, you're paying $100 total towards both cards in the month, right?
Right.
So could you afford to say pay while still maintaining the minimum payment on the $1,000 card? Could you afford maybe to put another $50 or so towards that smaller card? So that way, that means that your monthly payment on that smaller card is $100.
Okay.
So basically, if you don't use that card, because that's the thing, is that you shouldn't be using the cards while you're trying to pay them off.
And you shouldn't be doing a lot of entertainment stuff either.
Right.
So if you can pay that off, if you pay $100 a month, you could realistically pay that off within 5, maybe 6 months, depending on what your interest is.
Okay.
All right. While still maintaining the $50 on the other card. So then once you hit that last month where you've made the final payment, so say your final payment ends up being like $25, you take that additional $75 that you've been paying towards that small card, and you roll it into the payment for the big card. So now you're paying $125 on that month. And then the following month, now that you've paid off the small one, you can then put $150 a month towards the $1,000 card.
Okay. That makes it a little bit more, in my brain, a little bit better.
Right. So then
easier.
It's like, oh, so we paid off this little card, and then you don't touch it.
Right.
I mean,
right.
It's just really depending on your financial situation. I mean, the other part of it is making sure that you do have somewhat of an emergency fund and having money in your savings, at the same time. And it's recommended, while you're doing this, to have at least $1,000 in that emergency fund, because they say that the majority of, middle to lower class Americans, $1,000 is a magical number when shit hits the fan, when you're short on something in the month or whatever. That could be, that could end up covering your rent or your mortgage or your car payment, or just something to kind of keep you afloat for another month while you figure out what
your
you
engine
need to
goes.
Yeah.
Right. Something, you know what I mean? Like,
something ridiculous.
Yeah. And so I know this, I don't want this to be like a Dave Ramsey show, but I mean, I love him. I think he has such a great method for this. And so, I love listening to like the Financial Makeover and his podcast, and we watch it on YouTube and whatever. But so like you said, Andrea, the first step is to have that $1,000 in your emergency fund. I've taught it to my kids. I'm just like, whatever you do, and I mean, they're still, Gabe's in college, Xavier's a senior. I'm like, as soon as you have $1,000 in your account, you do not go under it. You do not touch it. It's for emergencies only. That's if you like lose your job and you can't pay your car insurance, because I'm not paying your car insurance for you. Gas, like anything that's your emergency fund. And so that's your first step, is to get that $1,000 into an account. And I remember there was a time whenever I laughed at that, because I couldn't even have 2 pennies to rub together, literally, then
Right.
compared
You're
to like
like,
being able to
how am
save
I going to get
$1,000.
$1,000? And then when you're in so much debt too, there's also like a mindset of like, well, what's $1,000 going to do?
Right.
You know,
But it does
$1,000
give
doesn't
you,
do anything.
but it
But
does give you like that peace of mind, right? And so that if something does happen, shit doesn't have to hit the fan right away, right?
well, and even
And
as a
so
homeowner, yeah, like as a homeowner, like Mel, I don't, I'm sure you have homeowners insurance, but I mean, most homeowners deductibles are at least $1,000 or something like that. So it's like you also need to take that into account. Like, so for me, like, if something happened to my car, my auto deductible is $500. So you better believe I got $500 just tucked away for a rainy day, you know, in the event something were to happen like that. And, so it's just things that you need to think about, like, as $1,000 is a good base, but once you can get to the point where you can actually put some money away, you need to start thinking about, like, all right, what's the deductible on this? What is my deductible on this? If we need to, for me, like if we need to evacuate our home and when a storm comes, do we have access to emergency cash that we might need to leave, to go stay somewhere? Just things that you need to think about in the long term that you also should factor in while you're trying to do this.
yeah. And it's not like that emergency fund really came in handy too when like I was diagnosed with breast cancer, because those medical bills was just so astronomical, and you're going for like tests and blood work and all of these things back to back. You meet your deductible. That was in January, and I met my deductible by February. And so I like, because I met my out of pocket. And so that really came in handy, having that. Like at that time, I had a couple $1,000s in the savings account. And so, I was thankful that I started this early on. But if you're just starting this, definitely get that $1,000 in the account. And then, like Andrea said, get an Excel sheet, get a piece of paper, what have you, and literally write down all of your expenses.
And
And
I
do
mean,
it with your partner too. Like if you're married and you're working towards financial freedom or
you need to
saving
be doing it
something or whatever,
together.
you need to do it together, because other it's a partnership, right? And so, I completed my spreadsheet, just a brand new one over the weekend, added Kevin's stuff, and it's just like, okay, what are we tackling first? Because at one point we were totally debt free minus my school loans, but um, the wedding happened, I bought a car, like all this stuff. And so, like we want to buy a house, but we also want to pay off this stuff first, minus, I agree with the school loans, minus the school loans. And houses here in where we live in near
Yes.
Charlotte are just freaking ridiculous. And I, like you, Andrea, I'll go on like Trulia and I'll look at houses, and everything that we need for our family size is like a $500,000.
Oh, that's all? I guess I'll move to Charlotte. Well, it's just here. Jesus.
And then but then your down payment. I mean, we've never bought a home either, but a lot of the first time home buyer programs, I thought that they were great, and they're not that great once we started looking into them. And you still need, because here's the thing, if you have mediocre credit and you make moderate to low income, you're probably fine. Kevin and I have high credit scores, and we make well over the means to even be considered for any type of like first time home buyer
Assistance.
help.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, I don't understand how people do it. Like, so that's what we're trying to figure out now is how do these people do it? Like, are they from wealthy families? Did they never have any debt to begin with? Did they come out of college and make six figures? Like, do they borrow off of their 401k? Kevin and I have tons of money in our 401k, but I'm not borrowing against our 401k just so we can have a house and then have to pay that back. Like, I just think that's stupid.
Right.
And just it's not for us, I guess I should say, but it's just sitting down, literally typing out these are all of our expenses, and then they're like categorize them between like utilities, credit card, house, medical, whatever.
Like what is, that's
and then your
exactly, that's
frequency
exactly what we did.
also, like, are these yearly, are they monthly, like weekly, whatever. And then take your income, figure out what the difference is. And if you really want to pay this off, like we eat out a lot. It's just something that we like to do. And so we're really cutting back to only eating out like twice a month. That way and that's our entertainment fund. That's it. And every other penny that comes into our house is going on something, like whatever bill we're tackling. And so we may not have, a quote unquote life for some time, but the fact that we want to pay this stuff off so that we can have a house and remodel and do like fun little projects, like I think that just outweighs for us right now.
Right. And that's that's the thing is like when you're doing this type of snowball thing, it's like, all right, so yeah, you have all these monthly bills, which includes your utilities, your rent, your mortgage, whatever. So, those go in a separate column because those aren't going to change. Those aren't going to, go down. Those are constants. So it's like you want to just take that amount, take what your total income is, and see what you actually have available for you to spend towards your debt.
And it's crazy because like when we were doing it, you don't realize, like, I don't know if you guys have cable, but we don't have cable. We just use like Netflix or Hulu or whatever subscriptions, right? That way we actually pay for basically what we want to watch. And it's eye-opening when you're like, okay, I don't spend $140 on internet and cable anymore, but I spend $100 on all of these TV services. And how much do we really use each one of these services? And so then you start going down, and I'm just like, okay, like Canva, $12.99 a month, Zoom, $14.99 a month, even though that's not a lot. Like it's not a lot,
right.
but over the course of the year, can I cancel those, use the free version, and take that money and apply it to a card? You know what I mean? So it's just, it's like making those little minor small tweaks. Grocery planning. Make your list before you go to the grocery store with your meals and stuff like that. And
Or
that'll
get
really help
delivery.
you. Get delivery. Yeah. That way you're not
Because
even
you're not
tempted.
exactly. And
It's
that
a little
for
bit more
me,
expensive, but I
But
mean,
it's probably
like I
cheaper than
paid,
those impulse
yes,
tosses
it
into
is.
the cart.
It is. And I can tell you that I took Matt to the grocery store with me. We spent a little over $100 more
oh my
than
God,
what I would have gotten if it was just delivery,
Yeah.
including the tip, you know. So there are things like that, you might be paying, like if I paid
do you
the
have an
1
Instacart
year.
plus
Well,
whatever
it's
or
through
whatever membership?
Kroger.
Yeah,
Yeah, I have the Boost membership through Kroger, but I get delivery because it keeps me one from buying crap that I don't need to eat, but it also saves me money.
yeah.
So, it's a two or three pronged approach there. So I enjoy my grocery delivery.
Yeah, like our cat food, now that Salem's on all this expensive cat food for his diabetes and stuff, we have that like auto ship through Chewy. Like
Chewy,
same thing
yes.
with his syringes and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
just
Mm-hmm.
so that one, it's peace of mind. I don't have to worry about if they're going to have this particular brand
store.
at the store.
Yep.
And little Miss Princess, she's so finicky about her cat food anyways. And it was just like, let's just, order it. And, usually if you have those auto shipments, you get some sort of like
They have
save.
like a 5% discount, I
Yeah.
think, at Chewy.
Yeah.
Because I do the boys' food through Chewy,
Yeah.
because like I said, it saves money.
Yep.
And I was going to Petco like twice a week getting Cooper's little food because I didn't know exactly how much he was going to eat. But it doesn't go bad. It's shelf stable, so I can just get it through Chewy and
Yeah.
save 5%.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I save gas.
True. It's true.
Yeah. So,
And time, all
but
that time that you're running back and forth.
yeah, yeah. So I appreciate the tips and all of this because I am working on my financial freedom just like, you two are. And, we do want to get a bigger house down the road and putting our finances together because when we bought the house, it was just me. And so I cleared out all my debt and I didn't, I was prepared to buy the house.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, once you get into a house, you start remodeling, you start things, putting things in that weren't there before, like a dishwasher, because my God, I need a dishwasher. And that was a must. So like we have accrued debt since we've been in the house for one reason or another. So now we're back into that point of paying everything down again so we can possibly, expand our house and get out of the area that we're in.
Now you want a bigger house, so that means bigger down payment.
Right. Right. Yeah. So, but I want to be
But
debt free before we do any
with
of
the
that.
stuff that you've put in, I'm sure your house value
Yeah.
has gone
The
up
value
too.
has
So
gone
Have
up.
you
Yes.
checked it recently, Mel, with like the outrageous mortgage
No,
boom that we're in?
they sent us a tax evaluation and actually went down, but that doesn't cover, they don't know what we've done
right.
to the inside and the outside.
That's just the
So
property, and that also
that's
includes
just the
the
property
property too. So
assessment.
if your neighborhood's going down the shitter, then the property value is going to go down. But that doesn't
Yeah.
necessarily mean like if you had someone come in and say, okay, well you have, you now have a dishwasher, so you have the hookups for the water in the kitchen. So if you decide to, like if you decide to either leave the dishwasher or take the dishwasher with you, then you still it's still upfit for that. And you
Right.
guys
Yeah.
put in that patio in the backyard, so you kind of have, yard appeal, curb appeal, things like that.
Yeah.
Where they have to laugh, a lot of people like, they want to sell their home, but and they put this price tag on it. They don't understand why it doesn't, it's not getting any offers for that amount. And then it's like you drive by out front and it looks like a dump, but it's like, well, you at least got to like mow the lawn.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Give it some curb
Exactly.
appeal, so it looks like somewhere someone would want to live, because that's the first thing at all. Because
Yeah.
someone comes in, they say, oh, I got to resod the whole lawn to make it look nice.
Right.
That's another story. So
yeah. So we're just plugging along, but I want to make sure that I'm in a good, like, I want somebody to look at my finances and be like, this is what you need to do. Because
I will say though, like whenever you sit down and do it yourself, I think it opens up that extra layer of ownership. And it's like, oh, crap. Like if you don't like to sit down for like an hour to do this, then maybe you shouldn't have as much debt. I'm not saying
Right.
you know, I'm just saying in general. You know what I mean? Like because then if the least debt that you have, the least that you have to write down, right? Because from year to year, chances are it'll probably maintain itself, fluctuate a little bit.
Yeah.
But then so I think it gives you that sense of ownership. And I know at first, when the first time that Kevin and I did this, it was scary coming to him and saying, like, okay, this is what I owe.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it was scary for him to come to me and say, okay, this is what I owe. Because I don't know how you guys do it, but before we got married and even still now, like we still have separate accounts. We've never like we know what each other makes, but I don't see where his money goes. I couldn't even tell you if he ever sent money. Like, I'm sure he sent money for his daughter. I can't tell you how much.
Yeah.
I don't know what he's contributing to like 401k, if he has a savings account.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And he does, and same with me. And then whenever we got married, we haven't changed anything. I mean, we're gonna go one of these weekends and add each other to each other's checking account just
Mm-hmm.
so that it's joint. But like my account's still gonna be my account and his account's still gonna be his account. It's
Mm-hmm.
basically, hey, if we die, you have access to my money kind of thing.
Right.
Right.
And we have it
But
worked out to who pays for what, but
what's
Mm.
preventing you from having just one single joint account? Or is this just you're just not there yet?
I'll never be there. Because I did that with my first husband,
Mm.
and I think I think a lot of I think one of the big reasons why people get divorced or there's issues is because of either because you're going out and you have a joint account, you're spending money, then the other person looks at the account and they're like, what the hell? Where's all of our money going? Kind of
Mm-hmm.
thing. Or one, I think it leaves room for resentment. And I don't mind
Sure.
being transparent. And like, that's why I'm saying, like, the first time that we came together and did this, and we had to be like, you have to be vulnerable. You have to
Mm-hmm.
be willing to say, okay, I may have effed up. Here's what I owe in my debt. How can we join forces and take, maybe Mel, when you meet with Matt, like one of his payments or his credit cards is actually lower than yours. So maybe you tackle something on his side,
Mm-hmm.
like you go back and forth or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. And so that's what we did. But I don't mind him having transparency with my account, same thing with his, but I like to see what income is mine, what I'm contributing to this
Mm-hmm.
household, what he's
Mm-hmm.
contributing to the household, because then resentment can't build and be like, what the fuck? We both got paid and all of our money's gone.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now, savings account, like I have a savings account, he has a savings account. We'll probably just combine that. And that way
Mm-hmm.
we just have like a quote unquote house fund or like emergency fund or whatever, and both contribute to that. But I like to see what I'm contributing.
Yeah. Makes perfect sense.
And it might just be because in my previous marriage, like I was a large part of it, I was the breadwinner. He
Mm-hmm.
spent a lot of times like being unemployed or going from job to job, and I just built so much resentment, and I hated it. And I just don't
Mm-hmm.
want that to have like a wedge
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
between
Yeah.
us.
I understand.
Yeah.
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 Well.
But so say you're at brand new, make your spreadsheet, expenses versus incomes, see how much you can, you might think that you can only add $50 to the lowest outstanding bill, but maybe you can add 100 or 120, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Um, save up $1,000 in your savings account. And even if you are at a place where you don't have a savings account, I personally think that's your number one step, is that you pay minimum on everything and you get that savings account to $1,000. I think it's empowering. I think it proves to you that you can accomplish a financial
Right.
task. And so I
Mm-hmm.
really do like how that's like step one. And then after that, then you can tackle your debt using the snowball method rather than like the avalanche method, which is focusing on interest rates. Getting that lower balance outstanding debt paid off lets you feel accomplished.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, okay, I did this. Let me do something else.
What's
Right.
funny is that, we kind of noted down like the interest rates and things like that too. And it's like even the cars that we have the larger balances on, they actually have the lower interest rate. So it's almost like for us to do a snowball versus an avalanche, it was like minimal in the
That's
difference.
good.
And I'm like, well, then why don't we just do the snowball? We'll get more enjoyment out of, being, this month we're gonna pay off 4 cards.
Yep.
So I won't tell you how many cards we have, but I'll tell you when we're done. But
Yeah.
I won't tell you mine either.
I just have the one, and then I have like a Torrid card and a Lane Bryant card. But to your point, like the only time I use those cards, it's to get like the Torrid rewards or whatever, and then I immediately turn around and pay it off. So I never have a balance on there. But to your point, Andrea, the Lane Bryant card I've had for years. Like I've had it way back when. It's probably my longest open card. And so this is, like you, the one thing, probably like the one thing I kind of disagree with Mr. Ramsey about is because
it's gonna ding
we
you.
will never be able to pay cash for a house. So you need some sort of credit. Right.
Yeah.
And so why am I going to close that card even though I haven't probably used it in years? It's still open, I check. But why am I going to close it and then my credit score goes down because it doesn't, my debt to income ratio is all a fluff.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean is like, between the two of us, I think at this point, we've had, I mean, gosh, I don't even know. I think one of our cards is like at least 12 years, I mean, you know what I mean? So it's just like, why am I going to close it and then risk that not having that, length of credit too, because that dings you too. Because it's like you have to get once, because I don't know if you have your credit cards show you like, they can give you an overview and it's like, well, once you get to, you could have a card open for 10 years, but that's still only like, average. But if you get that account, history open to 15, then it's above, you're above average. So it's like, how many, I don't really know how many points it actually affects it, but it's like, I'll take whatever points I can get to get the number to go up.
Well, and what's interesting is that I don't know, like, so if you have an app for your credit card, a lot of them have like simulators on it, right? And so with mine, I can go in and I can actually say, hey, I want to pay off my oldest length of card. So it'll show me what my credit score would be. Same thing if I like wanted to go out and when I went and got my car, I put that in there so I knew how that would affect my credit score.
Right.
A mortgage. It's interesting because when you go out and get like my car, it said you'll drop this many points. But if I add a mortgage, it'll bump up my credit score
and that's
because, it's real estate. So
that's because the bank can always take the house back and sell it for more. So
yeah,
they can't do that with the car.
No, but it's just, it's interesting. I always like playing around with those simulators because it gives you an idea as to what you can do to impact it. And a lot of times they even have like payment calculators, whereas if you paid X number of dollars, this is when you can pay off by this
Well,
time,
right. And I mean, that shows you, it shows you on your monthly statement, how much you pay. It says if you only pay the minimum, it's going to take you 35 years to pay this off. Or if you pay, $75, you'll take 3 years to pay it off. So, it's just thinking along that way. But I think, Mel, for the example that you provided, and if anybody else is, in a similar boat or whatnot, it's just, if you have that extra money, just put it towards that lowest card. Get rid of that lowest card. And make yourself a spreadsheet so you know what you have on, what your total is due. I mean, obviously they're going to fluctuate, with the interest every month that you're not paying it off in full. But
what is this? Like, is my face red to you guys?
It does look
like,
a little
I don't know
red.
what this is. I don't know. If you're looking at this on YouTube, I don't have a sunburn or anything. I don't know what that is.
You're getting flustered. You're excited talking about financials.
I guess.
Well, this has been enlightening. So thank you both.
But if you have any questions or if you have any tips of your own, please feel free to, drop them in the comments and share with us, share with our viewers, listeners.
Yeah. I think the one last thing that I want to say too is that, like, even though you want to have financial freedom and you have to be disciplined and you have to want it more than you want the immediate gratification of doing XYZ now.
Right.
However, having said that, I don't know about, I mean, I know all of us, but you listener, I don't like you. I'm sure that you work hard for your money. So, and you can't take your money with you. when, your time is expired. So
But your debt will
give
go to your
yourself,
relatives.
no, but I'm just saying, give yourself an allowance. I'm
Yeah.
not,
Mhm.
I don't like Kevin and I work really, really hard. And so I'm not about to give up 100% of our freedom, of our decompressed time to do
Mhm.
things so that we can come back to work the following week and even be better, whether that's, buying a new PlayStation game, or whether that is going out to lunch or what have you. But there's ways to cut back. And I think once you do your spreadsheet and you see how much you spend in eating out or quote unquote entertainment, it doesn't have to be zero, but what percentage can you decrease it by and still feel like you're living, but you're getting closer to your ultimate goal?
Mhm.
I think
Right.
that's just something to think about.
Right.
Yeah.
Or, just even if you go out to eat 3 times a week, can you cut back cut back once and just 2,
Yeah.
Yeah.
things like that.
All right,
Yeah.
ladies. Good talk.
Well,
Good
good
chat.
talk. Yeah. Thanks so
Now I
much.
want to see your spreadsheet by the end of the week.
No, I have a spreadsheet that I work on, but I'm not showing that to anybody. Sorry, can't do
Show
that.
it to your hubby.
Yeah.
Oof,
Yeah.
that's the Band-Aid right there.
Yeah.
I'm not ready for that.
But, and
All
have
right.
him do one too.
Yeah, I'm having severe anxiety right now. I got to stop this talk.
All right. Love you, ladies.